Alright, how's it going? Today I'm just going to give you a quick tutorial about the controls of a motorcycle. So before anybody goes riding, you have to know what everything does, right? So first we're going to start off with the basic stuff. So this is the ignition. So unlike a car ignition, this one has an extra feature. So if usually most bikes come with a steering lock. Right now it is off, but if you push the key down and turn it all the way to the left, you can see the handlebars lock all the way to the left. If anybody tries to steal the bike, this would kind of make it a little bit harder for anybody to roll it away, mainly because it will only want to go left. So basically, here we have my house here. Usually keep the bikes under that awning. If the bars are turned to the left, you're just gonna go into cars. Um, Next off, gonna turn the key back into the off position, and then the other position that there is the on position. This turns on all the electronics, the ECU, the fuel pump. You can hear that prime. And this would also turn off the bike. The other thing that can turn off the bike is the kill switch here. So when the kill switch is in the off position, the bike isn't even going to crank over. There's not going to be any sort of ignition, fuel sent to the motor. It just won't start. So we're going to throw this back into the on position. You'll hear the fuel pump prime to pressurize the fuel system in there. And then the start button right here. This will crank over the motor. Over here, you can either click that button to turn it off or start it up again, or turn the key to turn the bike off. Now, let's throw the handlebars back over here. Now, second thing, we're going to start off, there's two sides to the controls. So the left side here, the driver's side, technically in a car, is going to be for switching gears, and realistically, that's about it. Just switching gears. So the main control here is going to be the clutch, which when you pull it in, it disconnects the motor rotation from the wheel rotation. So basically, if you have the clutch in, you can give it all the gas you want and it won't go anywhere. And then the other main control here on the left side is the shift lever. So the bike, most motorcycles have what's called a sequential transmission, which is different from a normal automatic or H-pattern manual car transmission, mainly because in cars you can basically go from any gear to any gear. You can go from first to sixth if you want to. This you have to kind of go in order. So the way the layout here is, see if we can get that to focus. So you can see first is all the way at the bottom here, and then you have neutral in between first and second, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, and if your bike has 6, you got a 6th gear. This would be the foot peg to engage said gears. So right now it's in neutral. You can press that down. That's going to go into first. Now, if you pull this up lightly, that's going to be in neutral. So let's throw it back down to first. This is the gear that you would start off in. Once you get to a reasonable 10, 15 miles per hour, you can shift into second. Second is going to be a hard all the way through neutral to click sort of pull. So right now you're in first, that would be second. And then third, fourth, fifth, onward. And then the other controls that you have on this side would be the headlight high beam rocker, and then the turn signal switches. The turn signal switches on bikes are a little bit weird. You would usually hit the turn signal here. Actually, let's turn this on. So here you would turn the turn signal on. You can see an indicator. You can see the turn signal on and everything. And then you would press this down to turn it off. Because there's no sort of sensor to see where this steering wheel would go back to the straight position, you would have to turn it off yourself. And I've seen so many of my friends, and I've done it too, where we go through a turn, use the turn signal, and then just forget about the turn signal. The turn signal would just stay on for miles at a time. And then the other control here would be the horn. Mine currently doesn't work, but this is where the horn button would be on most motorcycles. Now, on the other side would be the braking side. So, two main controls here. You have the, actually I would also call it the front, the go and stop side. This would be the front brake. On most sport bikes, because they have two brake sets, these are very touchy and very easy to overpress and lock up the front wheel. If you lock up the front wheel, the bike does lose balance and you could go down. So this you would use very progressively up to whatever turn, whatever light, whatever stop sign you would be going on. Now here, you would have the rear brake. The rear brake is a little bit less sensitive. Usually the split between how much front brake and how much rear brake you use is about 70 front, 30 rear. Mainly because when you're on the brakes, weight transfer matters a lot on a motorcycle. So when you're on the brakes, everything gets kind of pushed down to the front. And once more weight is on the front, that tire is going to have more friction on the road. So you can input way more braking force to that front tire. The rear, once you're hard on the brakes, the rear lifts up a little bit. Like, this is not completely like the wheel lifts up, which I have seen happen. But that's only under very, very heavy braking from the front. But the suspension decompresses the tail and kind of raises up. Weight comes off of the rear wheel, and it is easier to lock up the rear. I would much rather lock up the rear on a motorcycle than the front. The worst thing that's going to happen to you if you lock up the rear, maybe it locks up a little bit and you fishtail a little bit. Nothing too bad, very easy to recover from. If you lock up the front, it's definitely harder to recover from, mainly because that's what steers the motorcycle. That's what has the most sort of the most sensitive steering controls. And then here you have, again, most motorcycles have this, collapsible foot pegs on this side, collapsible foot pegs on this side, and biggest, most important thing, you have the throttle. Throttle usually goes about 90 degrees of a turn. You can see that from here. And also, any motorcycle, it is very sketchy. Sometimes, if it's a lot of horsepower, that throttle can get very sensitive, where you could end up jerking the bike forward or ending up going much faster through a parking lot, something like that, than you want to. So another thing, these two things you really have to be careful with. That should cover all the controls on a motorcycle, and I will have a beginner's video of how to get going, kind of cruise around the parking lot, make some turns, just beginner stuff on how to ride a little bit later on. Thanks for watching.